Welcome back, all of you. In the very first introductory lecture, we have seen some basics of the course content, and we have seen the very simplest of the communication system model, that is wired communication system model, and then further we have seen the wireless propagation environment. Now, since we have laid down the foundation for wireless kind of a scenario, so moving on, we'll look at the multipath scenario, like how the multipaths are created in the wireless environment and how do we model them mathematically. So we'll try to model the multipath scenario in the form of a statistical expression, which is the most commonly used and encountered in the case of wireless environment, right? So we know that in a wireless propagation environment, that between transmitter and receiver there are multiple paths that are created. One will obviously be a line of sight path, and there will be other non-line of sight path, right, which arises due to the reflections or attenuations or due to the obstacles present in the environment, right? So we have already discussed that these multipaths are severely critically affected by two factors, that is attenuation and delay, right? We know that these are the two major factors that influence the multipaths, signal propagating through the multipaths, right? So let us assume that there is a multipath scenario and it comprises of several components of propagation paths. That means we assume that there are L number of multipaths from 0 to L minus 1, and all the different paths, all the L paths will have different attenuation and different delay associated with them. So their individual channel coefficient will depend on different attenuation and delay factors, right? Which is quite obvious thing. So the combined or the consolidated channel response H of t of that wireless environment is therefore sum of individual responses. So these are the responses of the individual multipaths, right, which depend on the different attenuation and delay. Okay, so the combined channel response HT will be sum of these individual responses, isn't it? So the HT can be written as summation AI del t minus tau I ranging from 0 to L minus 1, which is the index for the multipaths, L multipaths, right? So this is one equation. Now we know that the relationship between this is a very standard expression, the relationship between a pass band or a band pass signal and a baseband signal, right? So XPT is, let's say, the transmitted baseband band pass signal. Okay, so that is nothing but real part of xt into e raised to power j 2 pi fct, where fc is the carrier frequency. This is a pretty standard expression, right? So fc is the carrier frequency, and some of the standard frequencies that are used for the existing technologies are like 900 megahertz and 1800 megahertz for GSM. We have two different standards for GSM, and for 3G and 4G it is from 2.1 to 2.4 gigahertz, and it's obviously different for 5G communication. In 5G it moves on to millimeter wave range. Okay, so these are the standard ranges of the carrier frequencies. Now let us assume one of the multipath, right? Let us assume the ith multipath component, and its corresponding response will be AI into del t minus tau I, depending on the corresponding attenuation and the delay factor, right? So the signal, while propagating through this channel or this response, that is if we say that the signal is XP, the pass band signal or the band pass signal, and it is passing through this ith HIT channel, right, whose response HIT is nothing but AI into del t minus tau I, right? So the resultant output will be what? AI into XP t minus tau I, right? The output will be The y output will be ai into xp t minus tau I, right? So this is the signal. Substituting the standard expression of xp, that is this real part of xt into e raised to power 2 pi fct. So we get this expression of the output signal when the signal passes through the ith multipath component. Okay. So let the fading coefficient we have already seen. Let us number this expression as equation number 2. Now we know that the fading coefficient h can be expressed as this. This we have already seen in the previous class. Alright. So let us simplify this a bit using the Euler's identity. Let us represent this complex exponential in the terms of sinusoids. So we can easily say that h is nothing but a complex fading coefficient having a real part u and an imaginary part v, right? Which are u is summation of ai cos 2 pi fc tau I, and v is minus of summation ai sin 2 pi fc tau I, right? Now this is the real part and this is the imaginary part of the complex fading coefficient h, right? So now the attenuation, just a second, yeah, the attenuation ai and delay tau I are completely random in nature. That depends on the different scenarios, right? So therefore u and v are the sum of large number of random components. We can comfortably say that since ai and tau I, these are random in nature, and u is what? Summation of, depending on the number of paths, it is summation of large number of random components. Similarly, v is also summation of large number of random components depending on ai and tau I. So the quantities u and v are assumed to be Gaussian distributed in nature. This is by virtue of central limit theorem. I hope you remember this theorem very well. We have done this theorem, I think, in POC or signals and systems, which states that summation of the distribution of the summation of large number of random variables results into Gaussian distribution. As the number of random variables increases, the distribution of the sum tends towards Gaussian distribution. That is a very important and standard theorem. So according to this theorem, we can say that u and v both are Gaussian distributed, since they are random variables which are summation of large number of random components, right? Okay, so one thing is clear, this h, which is complex fading coefficient, consists of real and imaginary part which are both Gaussian distributed, right? So now let us assume that if x is any Gaussian random variable with mean, x is assumed to be Gaussian with mean mu and variance sigma square. So we are well aware of its probability density function. It is 1 upon square root 2 pi sigma square e raised to power minus x minus mu square divided by 2 sigma square. If you still don't remember this expression, please learn this expression. It will be used again and again during this course. Okay, and being a communication engineer, you have to remember the PDF of this Gaussian noise at least, right? And this is the standard notation, where mu is the mean and sigma square is the variance. So now we know that u and v are identical and independent distributed Gaussian random variable, right? With mean 0 and variance 1 by 2. Okay, for the simplicity of the analysis, we assume that this is for sure that u and v are Gaussian distributed, and further for the simplicity of the analysis, we assume that they have mean 0 and variance 1 by 2. So this would be the standard notation, and these will be the PDFs of u and v. Okay, so now we have with us the PDFs of the real and the imaginary part of the complex fading coefficient, right? Now the next step would be to find out the joint distribution of u and v. Now since u and v are assumed to be independent in nature, so the joint PDF would be nothing but multiplication of their individual PDFs, right? As simple as that. So if we multiply these two PDFs, we get this as the joint PDF of u and v. Now let us try to find out a more useful representation of this channel coefficient h in terms of the amplitude and the phase components, right? So h, we know it is a into e raised to power j phi, and it's a complex exponential, right? So we simplify it in the form of sinusoids, where u and v are a cos phi and a sin phi. Amplitude will be square root of u square plus v square, and obviously the phase will be tan inverse v by u. All right. Now since we know the PDFs of u and v, we further find, using the expressions of PDF of u and v, find out the PDFs of the amplitude and the phase. So we find that the amplitude, PDF of the amplitude of this random coefficient h is twice of a e raised to power minus a square, where a is the running variable, right? This is the PDF of the amplitude of the feeding coefficient h, right? And this is the PDF of the phase of h. All right, so this is the two PDFs, right? Now if we analyze this PDF of the amplitude of the h, we can say that it follows a standard distribution, mathematical distribution, statistical distribution, which is a Rayleigh distribution. This is nothing but your Rayleigh distribution. Hence the channel coefficient h is termed as a Rayleigh feeding channel, although that channel h consists of two components, a real component and an imaginary component. All right, and its amplitude is your u square plus v square, and the PDF of this amplitude is 2a e raised to power minus a square, which is Rayleigh distributed. So this is the reason we call this h as a Rayleigh feeding channel. All right, and clearly if we put a here as 0, the resultant would be 0, and we say that the region is in the deep fade region. All right, so depending on the value of a, the fading intensity can be varied, right? Now let us have a look at a simple example. All right, the question is, what is the probability that the attenuation of the channel is worse than 20 dB? So the question is that there's a transmitter receiver and there's a channel in between, okay, and the probability is asked such that the attenuation channel is even less than 20 dB, sorry, even worse than 20, even more than 20 dB. We need to find out this probability. See, we know that the attenuation or the gain, we call it gain or attenuation, same thing, of a channel is a, right? So the gain of that would be a square, right? The attenuation, when the signal propagates through that channel, the gain achieved by that signal would be a square, since the attenuation is a. Therefore, for attenuation to be worse than 20 dB, it follows that this 10 log base 10 a square should be less than equal to minus 20 dBs, right? Fine. So simplifying it, we get that a should be less than 0.1, and we need to find out its probability. So probability a less than 0.1 would be integral of this PDF of a over the range 0 to 0.1, substituting the value of the amplitude, the PDF of the amplitude a, which is a Rayleigh distribution, and simplifying it, it gives us the answer 0.01. So this is how we can find out the probability that the attenuation of the channel is even worse than 20 dB. All right, so this is how we characterize a wireless channel. Okay, I'll just give a quick revision to what we have seen till now. Yeah. So between a transmitter and receiver, we know that multipaths exist. Okay, there are several paths through which the signal transmits between a transmitter and a receiver. So if we try to characterize these multipaths are critically and severely affected by the factors, that is attenuation and the delay. Alright, and let's say there are L number of multipaths, so each path will be affected by different attenuation and different delay. So the combined channel response HT will be summation of the responses of each individual multipath, resulting into this. Now so whenever the signal, the bandpass signal transmits through this channel H with the response H of t, the output would be something AI into XP t minus tau I, that is XP convolution HT. HT we know this, it is for the ith channel, it is AI into del t minus tau I, right? So doing substituting the same in this expression, substituting the standard expression of the bandpass signal, we get that this H is nothing but a complex fading coefficient having a real and imaginary part. Okay, and this U and V both are summation of the random sinusoids. We can say this AI is completely random, depends on the channel condition. Similarly, tau I is again random, and this U and V as a whole are summation of a large number of random components. Thus we can say that U and V are Gaussian in nature. So H is a complex fading coefficient and its real and imaginary part are Gaussian in nature. Alright, so just for the further simplification and better insight, we assume that U and V are Gaussian identically and independent distributed Gaussian random variable with mean 0 and variance sigma square. So their individual PDF would be this, and hence we find out the joint PDF, which comes out to be this. And another useful way of representing this complex fading coefficient is that we represent it in terms of its amplitude and the phase. Okay, the amplitude is underscore square root of U square plus V square. We have the PDFs of U and V individually with us, so we can easily find out the PDF of A. And when we find out the PDF of A, it turns out to be this statistical expression, which is nothing but of the Rayleigh distribution. This expression represents the Rayleigh distribution, right? So we can say that the amplitude of the fading coefficient H is Rayleigh distributed. That means this H can be assumed to be Rayleigh fading channel. Alright. So this was about how we characterize a wireless environment with a fading coefficient or a fading channel. Alright. That is all for this lecture. In the next lecture, we'll look at the performance analysis of a simple wireless channel. Like if we talk about a very simple wireless channel, that means we have a transmitter, we have a receiver, and we have a single wireless channel in between with some fading coefficient H. H is the channel coefficient, channel fading coefficient. It is the channel fading coefficient. Okay, so we'll find out the performance analysis. That means we'll find out the bit error rate at the receiver end for this wireless channel. Okay, we have already done similar exercise for a wired channel where the transmitter and receiver were connected by a physical connection, right? There the received signal Y was X plus N, while in this case the received signal Y would be equal to H of X plus N. And we have already seen why this H, that is channel coefficient, is multiplicative in nature. And we know it is a AWG in noise, which is additive in nature. It is added at the receiver end. But we have already seen why this H is multiplicative in nature, thus leading to the output expression at the receiver as Hx plus N. So using this expression, we'll find out the bit error rate probability for BPSK modulation scheme for a wireless channel. All right, so that will cover up in the next lecture. Thank you.